Brian Lones here with John McGann, the editor of Hot Rod Magazine, for another episode of the Hot Rod Pod, Where It All Began. This episode presented by OpenRoad Auto Insurance. And John, the fastest guest in the history of this show.
Ever, and probably ever will have on this show.
Danny Thompson, of course, the son of Mickey Thompson. We're going to have Danny in. We're going to talk about the incredible story of the Challenger 2, a car that he drove to speeds of over 450 miles an hour at Bonneville. And it's a story more about life and a car and how this all kind of binds us together.
Tenacity is how he describes his experience, sort of carrying on his father's legacy. And I like the question where you asked him, like, what was the one thing that you got from your dad that you think he imparted upon you? And he's like, tenacity, stubbornness, stupidity.
Yeah, exactly. And it's so great. Danny's a guy that has great history in racing, and of course his Bonneville exploits have been the stuff of legend. So we hope you enjoyed this conversation with Danny Thompson, the one and only. And this is, again, the Hot Rod Pod, Where It All Began, presented by OpenRoad Auto Insurance. And if we're going to talk about where it all began in Hot Rod Magazine, we have to talk about land speed racing, the Dry Lakes, Bonneville. And that is why we brought in a recognized badass expert, a man who holds a record at 448.757 miles an hour. Danny Thompson, what's up, man?
It's a pleasure to be here. It's so cool that people still cover Bonneville. Hot Rod Magazine certainly is, what brought it kind of into its fruition way back in the day, and got people to understand what it was. Because people, you go out to the middle of a desert and you go straight. People are kind of like, what is that? But Hot Rod, Hot Rod brought that in, and that was, and they continue to do it. So thank you.
Danny, and you and I talked last week about this, and your life, we could sit here and write a 10-chapter or a 10-volume series on it, but I really want to concentrate our conversation today on Challenger 2. And this has been an incredible journey in your life to bring this car that your dad first conceived and had built by one of the greatest assemblages of hot rodders of all time in the late 60s, and then to achieve in 2018 to become the world's fastest wheel-driven, piston-powered car. So I don't even know where to start, but I guess the first place to start is, how did these guys have a concept in 68 that you were able to take to fruition in 2018 and make kind of their ultimate kind of goal be realized?
Well, it kind of all started in 1960 when my dad went 406.6 miles an hour with Challenger 1. But he didn't do it two ways. Yeah. And if people don't know, at Bonneville, you have to do it two ways and combine those two times, and that's your thing. So my dad, he did that. It put him on the map. Yeah. It made Mickey Thompson be, kind of a household name. And before that, the Brits had all the records, and we couldn't beat the Brits. They were those guys were going 333 miles an hour in like 1934.
Yeah, and they had these big estates, and they had, these guys were basically, if not royalty, they were kind of royalty to have the budget that they did to come over and do what they were doing. John Cobb and these guys.
Yep. And they had government, backing them too. So, and definitely we don't have that. But anyway, so my dad did that, and then Summers Brothers went 409 in 1965, and then in 68, my dad is going 409. Yeah. My dad's going, I want that record. He never got that record. Yeah. So that was something that was always in it. So then he went to Ford, and he got Ford involved. And then that's when, we built the Mustangs, 3 Mustangs for Bonneville, 2 funny cars, and the land speed car. All within like 6 months. It was crazy. And then you had guys like Tom Job and Nye Frank, who was my mentor. And,
Quinn Epperly. It just, you look at the people that worked on the car. The car you end up driving, but it is an all-star team.
Oh yeah, it's
of
amazing.
The greatest fabricators of their day.
And they were all young at the time.
Yeah.
So the conception, streamliners were basically a thing started by the British, and is that true? Is that like what the concept of like the streamliner?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. Did it
evolve from a funny car, and then like how did it evolve from there to what we see from Challenger 1 and then into Challenger 2?
Well, in the Brits, everything was big. The tires were taller than you were. John Cobb sat out in front of the car, right in the front of the car. There was nothing around him but 2 big giant tires that could explode and take your head off.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he had seat belts. I don't remember.
It looked like a giant pumpkin seed.
It did.
It looked like a giant pumpkin seed with 4. It looks. They all. The streamliners of the cars of that era, like let's call it the 30s and 40s, they look like things you'd see in a CGI made-up world that we live in now. They don't look like things people created with their hands, but certainly they did.
Yeah, they did. Well, and then that's what, when my dad went to Ford in 68 and said, I want to do this, and then Ford, that was the launch of the Mach 1 Mustang, and so that was into the funny car part of it, and then this was into the land speed thing. And my dad always wanted to bring that record back, but bring it back. He never had it.
Yeah.
Right. But he was smart enough. He didn't tell anybody he didn't have it. He just told everybody he went 406 miles an hour, which he did.
Yes. Instant hero.
Yep.
There's great. I mean, you can go search online. You can see all the TV interviews he was doing at the time. He was everywhere, every possible place. One of the things I think that's incredible, too, about this era that you talk about, the funny cars, the Mustangs, and then the Streamliner getting built. There's a story from the Sports Illustrated archive. This guy named Bob Odom wrote this story, and it's called, The Trials of Old Marshmallow Foot.
Yep.
And Odom is one of the great – he's a great writer, but he's a great automotive writer. And so Ray Brock, Danny Ungaius, your father, and this guy, Bob Odom, they invite him out to the Salt. They misspelled Odom's name on the side of the car.
They did.
Oh.
And so they were going to go out and set endurance speed records out there.
Uh-huh.
So Odom gets in the car with your father, and your dad says, okay, well, you're just going to get it out here and keep it up at 65. And he says, he's thinking, 6,500 RPM, not 65 miles an hour. And
It's a big difference.
And he spins the car around, and he's got all these great stories. But, it is almost impossible to overstate the size that Mickey Thompson had in the automotive realm in the late 1960s.
Well, and he didn't have an experience. He was a young kid when he opened Lions Drag Strip. I mean, it was 1954, and he was 28 years old or something. And how he could do all this stuff and come up with it and make it happen.
Yeah.
I mean, he was definitely smart enough to get good people. The Challenger 1, that was only Fritz Voigt and him, basically. And Fritz, neither one of them, well, my dad kind of finished high school. My mom, helped him finish it, and a few valve jobs for the teachers and, different things like that. And he busted out. But, there's a funny story because Sir Malcolm Campbell, I guess it was Campbell, the second Campbell.
Yes.
Is that Malcolm?
Donald. Yeah.
So they're at Bonneville, and he wants to see my dad's drawings for the cars. He says, Mick, can we, I can't do a Brit accent, but I'd like to see these drawings and everything. My dad says, no. And the guy says, well, why? He says, because they're all on the garage floor in El Monte with chalk.
In chalk.
And that's how that car all came about. They took 4 Pontiac engines, him and Fritz, and put them in the middle of the floor, took chalk, and they said it's going to be about this big. And then they started, buying tubing and, Sears arc welder, and, it's scary.
Off to the races they went.
And they went, and they did it. But back to the Challenger 2, or the Autolite Special at the time, Ford did that car, basically. Was a Detroit...
A Carcraft. Yeah.
And they drew it all up, and I have the drawings. I have all the original drawings. I have one, and everything's in full scale, and everything by hand. No CAD stuff or anything like that. Yeah, if I ever get another shop again, I'm going to put the one full-size drawing on one wall.
That has to be incredible.
Oh my God.
Because that drawing's 27 feet long or whatever, 30 feet long?
30 feet long.
Wow.
I folded it out and looked at it, and I'm just going, this is so cool.
Yeah, I can't draw a triangle. And these guys are drawing stuff that's 30 feet long, one-to-one scale.
And then Quincy did the back of the car off of the drawings, and then Tom and I and Louis Tekanoff did the body, and then Pat Foster was kind of like the chassis guy, and Ray Higley, who was
Ray Higley.
Yeah, from Carlsbad, and those guys all welded it. They did that car in 6 months.
Incredible.
It took me 4 years to get it running again, and basically the thing was there. So it tells a little bit about who's smart and who's not.
So they take the car to Bonneville in 68, and I think we really need to pick the story up here. So they take the car to Bonneville in 68, shake it down, shows good promise. The rain comes in, and that's basically it for that original version of the car.
That was it. So they got it running, and everything was pretty good. Steering wasn't good, and it wouldn't steer right. And so they took it back and worked on that, got the steering where it was pretty good, and then came back, and then that's when it rained. So, the car is lined up. My dad made some runs. He made about – there's different stories on how fast it really is.
No way.
If it was my dad, it was 800. Yeah. But the real truth was about 360. And so it had promise. And then, like you said, it got rained. It went back to the shop in Long Beach and got cleaned up. And then in 1969, that's when basically Ford, General Motors, and Chrysler all said, race on Sunday, sell on Monday. We're not going for that. And they put all those programs in the trash can. And so that car set, and it set for 20-something years. And then, any racing that I did, I did on my own.
Yes.
My dad wouldn't help me.
Yeah.
Right. He wouldn't absolutely refuse to help me. He did not want me to race. Part of that was Dave McDonald driving my dad's car in '64. You know,
at the Indianapolis
500, and he crashed and died. And so I'm still pissed off at my dad for not helping me, but now that once I had a child, then that's okay. I understand. It wasn't about restricting you; it was about saving you. Yeah. And but anyway, you know that. So it set for all those years, and then my dad came to me. I was racing on my own, and I was fortunate enough to do pretty good in different series, road race series, and everything with drag
Former
racing.
Atlantic guy. I mean, you went over and ran Le Mans with Danny Ungaius and worked on that team and everything. So, you've been around.
Yeah, I've been around. Yeah, I did. I mean, I think one year I did 56 events in 52 weeks, kind of like what you guys do, you know. But, I mean, I did all the IMSA
and the
races.
dirt bike stuff.
And the dirt bike stuff, you know. So, I mean, that's all I wanted to do in life. I did not want to be a lawyer like my dad wanted me to be. No, that had nothing. That did not compute at all. So my dad and I had, you know, and because he brought me up to be like him.
Yeah.
And that meant.
Yeah.
But then he came to me in I think '88, and he said, "I want to run that car again." I says, "That's cool." I said, I'll come help you if you want. And I forget who I was working for, maybe Ungaius or something at the time. And then he says, "No, I'd like to have you drive it." And I went, makes the hair on my arm stand up. And I'm looking, I'm going, "You drinking? You know, what's happening here? You know?" And anyway, so we made a plan, and then it was just shortly after we made that plan that my dad, you know, got murdered. Yeah. And so then I didn't want to do it because it was going to be a father-son deal.
Yeah.
You know, I'm Mickey and Danny. In fact, even on the pictures of the roll cage on the roll bar padding and stuff, it says drivers, Mickey and Danny. You know, I mean, it was.
Mm-hmm.
And look, to me, you know, there's a double kind of sadness in that part of the story, in that you lose your father in this horrendously tragic way, but also it was at this moment of reconciliation. Like it just, to me, that's the real heartbreak in that, where it's like, damn, like the whole thing had actually kind of come full circle, and here it is again. And it's like, and that was going to be one of my questions to you, was like, is that why you kind of went dead stop on the project at that point? Outside of the financial side of it, was it just the idea of even looking at that car at that point was just not something you could do?
I'm a fabricator. I do all those things. I've been all around different kind of race cars, but I didn't have the confidence to go to something new and try to tackle that, because it was a big deal if you're going to fail. And trying to get help, you were destined to fail. Yeah. With the 50-year-old car, at 42 years old when we first started it.
Sure.
But everything was against you, and I thought, okay, well, if I can find enough good people, you know, to help me. And then I moved from Colorado back down to Huntington Beach, and then I had some people that were going to help me, and that didn't work out. And it was kind of like, I'm sitting there looking at that car, and I'm looking at that car, I'm going, can I do this? Can I do this? And then I forget what I did. I cut the roll cage off because it wasn't up to spec anymore. And that thing had to fit in 17 different places. It had to be within a 32nd of an inch. And I did that, and I did it twice. And I put a tack on it, and then the hood wouldn't close. And then finally, 500 tacks later, you know, maybe I can do this, you know. And then we had this nucleus of people, Jerry Darien and R.C. Catton, and different people, Jeff Haywood, that were around looking at this thing. And everybody was kind of out here because they're all knowing that you can't do that with an old car. And then as things just slowly started coming, that circle came closer and closer, and it became the best group of people I've ever worked with, any of the series I did, because everybody really wanted it. There wasn't any money, you know, and 2 guys got paid. I was the 3rd guy. That guy didn't get paid. I was the one that wrote the check. I ran out of ink at that point, you know. But it was this group of people, and it just kept getting closer and closer. I mean, you know, Darian with the motors, and I didn't know anything about fuel motors. We talked about that, you know, and so I'm having to learn that. I mean, I've been around fuelers all my life, basically, but I mean, that's trick. Those guys, I mean, like the big show guys, I mean, the things they do and the time frame that they do it in and stuff, it's just, I became infatuated with drag racing again by that, because I was out of that as into road racing and all that stuff. But anyway, that group kept coming closer and closer. And so what we had from 68 is we had the shell with the body and no engines, no transmissions. We had rear ends. And That was it.
In a front end that wasn't legal.
And a front end that was not legal and was scary. I mean, it was a wagon wheel steering, just like a little red wagon.
Yeah,
so.
and that's maybe an important point to make, just so people understand how that works. Because you read stories and say, well, it had wagon steering. Just explain that to people, because it's hairy.
Yeah. Well, you look at a little red wagon, and I mean, you turn the handle to go somewhere. Well, the wheelbase shortens, right, on one side and lengthens on the other. Now, you don't have much steering in a Bonneville car. You know, like that car only had 2.5 degrees, but it still pivots from the center. And some people got killed at Bonneville with that steering, and they made it be illegal. So you couldn't do that anymore. Well, we got Tim Gibson on our side, and
great
Tim,
aerodynamicist,
oh man,
brilliant,
and just mechanical, really good too. I mean, you know, Bernstein and Force and Gurney. I mean, those are pretty heavy hitter names to work for. And so he started working on that. It took him a few months to get it. I mean, the front end had 5 axles. You know, 5 axles in it. We made our own U joints and you know, everything out of MAR-AG, all the right stuff. But we still use the original rear ends. And my dad and Ermi Hermoso had cast 5 of them, and Ermi had 2. My dad had 2. My dad had a spare, and that was for Ermi's Lycoming jet car.
Okay.
And but anyway, so we, you know, that came together, and then we were putting no more, you know, SOHC motors, single overhead cam Ford motors. So we got, you know, Brad Anderson, go down to Brad to, you know, see, yeah, and Brad's your friend till it's time to pay. There's no discounts, you know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, we use that combination with, you know, Jerry Darian figuring the A combination out, and Jerry did the heads and all that and the injectors, and so then now you got motors and that comes together. Then you got to do rear ends, or the rear ends we used, and then transmissions and figuring all that stuff out, and it took 4 years.
Yeah, and you're unlike most other people. You're having to figure it out and fit it in an envelope that already exists. A lot of people, you got to build the mechanical side of it, then figure out. This was you had the box that you had to fit everything into.
That's so observant, because that was the hardest part. I mean, like the frame rails were 3x3 square tubing on the top. Well, this SOHC motor is way narrower than the Hemi, and so those 3-inch ones came into 3/4 inch, where I had to cut that much out of them. And then like I said, the cage wasn't legal, and that had to get done. And then the bottom rails, they weren't legal, so I had to get down there and bore those out, and then stuff more tubing in it and weld it, and just slowly it came together. And then finally we got to in 2014. So I moved down here in 2010. In 2014, we took it out to El Mirage and ran it the first time, and I keep thinking, well, you know what to do, because you've been around racing all your life. Sports cars, Indy cars, you know this stuff, right? We got out there to El Mirage, I'm going, you don't know. Excuse me.
It's the internet. You can say whatever you want.
You don't know nothing, you know, and we're out there with no tents, and, you know, how do you take it off the trailer? And, you know, that's another thing. How do you load a car that's 32 feet long on a trailer?
Yeah.
Well, Seth Hammond, we stole his ideas and made an airbag suspension where the thing just came all the way, no axles underneath the trailer, all airbags with arms, trailing arms, and everything goes right down to the ground. And all of those things you had to start figuring out. And then we got to Bonneville, and we're going, okay, we got this. And we get up there, and they say, well, the car's not legal because it's got fuel bags in it. I go, everybody runs fuel bags. All FIA of fuel, you know, Indy cars, F1 cars, everything but drag cars.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you can't, we can't let you run. And I'm going, I don't know if I want to kill somebody. I know I want to kill somebody.
Yeah.
So the guy says, okay, we'll let you run, but you can't go over like 200 miles an hour. He says, okay, so we made the first run at 319. Everything seemed to work good.
Whoopsie doodle.
Yeah. Now that's faster. Our first run, that was on a 3-mile track, and our first run was faster than I'd ever been by. I'd been 260, I think, in the Mustangs, and all of these things remind me of something else, because we took in 2011, we replicated what my dad did with the '68 Mustang.
You and Brent Hayek, right?
Brent Hayek, yeah. So anyway, but we get to Bonneville, and so we make this run, and then we're going, okay, I think we got to handle this. But that was a 3-mile track, not a 5-mile track. So we come back 3 weeks later for Speed Week, rain.
Yeah.
2 years in a row, 14 and 15.
Yeah,
right?
14 and 15.
One thing I just want to double back on before we go too far ahead. So this is basically an 8-year process of getting the car up to what we now know is on the Bonneville Salt Flats, as we're talking about. And one of the things I kept thinking about as I was going through the story and kind of putting my thoughts together was, you're working with incredibly talented people. You're working with people who are like peak fabricators, peak tuners, peak everything, that are basically volunteering their time. How do you oversee these people and manage them without sending them all out the door? Because a lot of these guys have worked for pretty big paychecks in their lives and gone romping stomping to the next garage down the block. So what is the leadership that kept that group together?
I think what it is, when we brought the engine guys in, I let the engine guys take care of the engine. I didn't go in there and say, you need to do this and you need to do that. I let them have their head on that. And we always talked about everything. Same thing with Gibson. If you let Gibson go, it can get pretty crazy, So, but, kept all that just in this groups. But all of these guys, they all had their job. Everybody knew their job. I didn't have to go tell anybody anything. And whenever there was a question, then we would all come together. Or if it was a motor, it would be me and RC. Or we had Richard Catton, Craig Johnson, who worked for Shaver for 30 years. And then another guy, Rich Kurtz, that he worked with RC and those guys when they ran funny car stuff. And so like that was a group, and you left them alone. Nobody bothered them, and nobody was allowed to bother them. Nobody was allowed to come in and mess with them and anything like that. I had a sergeant at arms with a kid I grew up with that was a little badass, little, 4 or 5 foot guy, and you just looked at him and
Don't mess with him.
He would stand around like that, make sure nobody messed with anybody, and same with brain fade, Frank Hannerhan. He was like our crew chief, but we didn't really have a crew chief, but they had to go to him before they came to me, and like that, and Frankie he just quit working for Gurney right now. He's the one doing that 67 Tie Mag Indy Formula One car, putting it back together for Gurney and for Justin, but those guys, and all of those people, and then my wife came in. Right, my wife wasn't with us at first because her mom was dying and she was taking care of her, full time. And she came in, and I'm thinking, how do I bring her in? We had 37 people there the last event. We had people there that gave us a quart of oil, 10 years before, and they were on the team because we needed that quart of oil there. And my wife came in. I'm thinking, she's a little 5 foot lady, 100 pounds, and I'm thinking, these guys, like you were saying, they've been around. They worked for some big hitters and all that stuff. And how is she gonna deal with them? But I let her do that. And just like she would say something, that those guys were like, attention. It was I'm going, how the hell did she do that? But it was just that with the whole group. Everybody came in, and it just. If somebody was stumbling with something, somebody else would come in and just help them. Didn't have to ask. Everybody just came in, and it raises the hair on my arm. It was so bitching.
Yeah, it's like a hybrid, because this is not your father's leadership style.
No.
So
no.
You got his tenacity.
Yeah.
You got the will to see this thing through to the end, no matter what it was going to take to do it. But he would not have led that group of guys like that.
No.
But you can't lead people like that anymore. Maybe, I don't know.
It worked, and I worked with enough people, and I worked with them. My dad was tough, and he worked people to death. You work for my dad, 100-hour work weeks were not uncommon, And in fact, we worked 6 months, basically 100-hour weeks, and I had a chance to drive a Formula 5000 car. And I told my dad I got a chance to drive a Formula 5000 car on a Sunday at Willow. And I said, I'd like to take the day off. And he said, nope, can't do it.
Wow.
He says, you cannot do it. He says, if I give you the day off, I get everybody the day off. I said, that's all right, give him the day off. But he wouldn't do it. And so I went anyway. And I came back, and he goes, what do you have to say for yourself? He was pissed, right? And I said, I don't think I need any help packing my toolbox. I said, I'll just go ahead and pack it up and head on down the road. That's how serious that stuff got, So, but that was all part of the deal, So.
Did you guys reconcile after that? Like, what was the period of time where you had to cool off?
It was a while because we were both hard-headed. Like I said, he raised me like him, And so, it was. It was for a while. It was definitely, but I was going racing. I wasn't being a lawyer. I was going racing, and whatever it took. That's what when I started Formula Atlantic. I got a crash car. Ungaius actually found it for me,
Yeah.
and it was crashed. And by that time, I'd been working for Ungaius doing tubs and stuff. That was before carbon fiber, doing tubs and stuff. So I knew how to do that stuff. And like I crashed the car when I was working for Gurney, and Rim let me come in after work.
Phil Remington, the Phil Remington.
The Phil Remington. I worked for Phil, you know. So besides Nye Frank and Tom Job and Pastor and Batura and all those guys, then I went to work for I went to Gurney's, right, trying to get a job with their new GTU program as a driver, and I went over there and they hired Willie T. Ribbs instead, and so there I am standing there going, what am I going to do? I don't have a job or anything, and I was buying and selling Volkswagen parts, you know,
Okay.
going to the junkyard and buying dual port heads, and then know who needed them.
You
and
were
that stuff.
marketplace before it was cool.
Yeah, exactly. And then anyway, Rim was there, and they introduced me to him, and you know, anyway, I went to work, you know, as a fabricator. My bench was next to Rim's, and that was frightening.
I mean, that's like being at the right hand of the Almighty, right? I mean,
It
geez
is for
Louise.
sure. The very first morning, right, we come in and we started at 7 or whatever, and then came 10 o'clock. He says, coffee break. I went, well, I don't think I've ever worked anywhere where you had a coffee break, you know. And so Rim's got this piece of a 1-inch aluminum bar stock, and he's heating it because he's bending it, and he's heating it with a torch, and he says coffee break, and he takes in his coffee sitting there from like 7 in the morning, cold, and he takes this 1-inch bar, he goes, and the coffee's spilling out the top of it and everything. He says, in my office. And we went in there, and he just, it was just like nothing. It was just like, you know, what does Phil Remington do on his day off? Builds a freeway off-ramp to his house, you know. So those, all of those things, that all helped kind of to answer your question about how do you deal with all those people, because you see how Rim worked with people, and how Ungaius worked with people, and Dan worked with people, and all that stuff. And I always felt like the fabricators and the mechanics never got treated well enough.
Yeah.
And so that was my goal, was to, like, my dad didn't give anybody else credit but my dad, right? So that was his style, and it worked, and it was good. I'm not putting a mouth on it. But so all of the guys that worked on the car in '68, I put all their names on the car.
Cool.
And then I put all of my guys' names on the car. So 68 crew and 2016 crew, because I want all those guys to get credit.
Yeah.
Because it's them.
It's them.
It's them. You know?
Yeah, their blood and sweat is still there.
Yeah.
You know, from the original guys to the present.
Absolutely. And when those guys shut the canopy and say go, you can't have a second thought.
Yeah.
This is a thing about Bonneville that people don't understand. So we ran in 14.
Yep.
Right. And we got rained out. We went back 2 weeks later, and we went the very first run, 392, very first 5-mile run. Get to the other end, pull the parachutes, and I'm going, oh, okay, I've never been that fast, right? Pull the chute, that big hit, and I'm going, okay, we gotta slow that deal down. And then now I can't see anything, right? I'm going, there's liquid everywhere. Well, these are dry blocks. There's no water in the blocks or anything. Well, I had everything so tight, because everything was so tight in there, that you barely had to move anything. And what happened is the parachute hit so hard, it took the fire bottles off.
Oh.
Oh, geez.
Now the fire bottles are, so basically we're going 400 miles an hour. The fire bottles are going right in my eyes. And I'm going, what is that? Oh, what is that? You know, now you're using real estate up pretty quick.
Oh, yeah.
You know, 2.5 football fields a second. And I'm going, can't see it, but pull my visor up. You know, pull my visor up, fire bottles right straight in my eyes. I'm going, okay, what do you do now? Well, when are you going to run out of salt? You pulled the chute at the 5, and you only got 7.5.
And you've sucked up a lot of it just thinking about
Just thinking about it, right? And so finally, we got to the 8-mile sign, and then 3 feet out in front of it are 3 cones, right? I went right in between them and didn't hit them.
Wow.
Right. I'd like to say that I'm a good driver. I couldn't see them. You know? I just started turning off. You know? And then anyway, the next morning we went back and ran 419, and then we lost a clutch, and I forgot where I was going with my original
But that
story.
was the average was 406 and change, right? Wasn't that the magic of that, or was that the following year?
That was 2 years later.
Okay.
Then. So 15 we got completely rained out, and then in 16 we went up and we didn't have it tuned right, and it that, but we got a record, you know, and I mean that was like, yeah. So My dad went 406.6 in 1960. Our two-way average was 406.7. So we kicked the old man's ass by 1/10 of 1 mile an hour 50-something years later, you know.
But it's poetic. I mean, it's crazy poetic.
Yeah, to come out like that at the same speed,
Yeah.
you know, you're not talking about very many people have gone over 400 miles an hour.
I think one of the things, and land speed racing is people know what it is, but it's very foreign to most people. Like, they know what Bonneville is, they know what a streamliner is, but they don't really understand a lot of the machinations of everything. And one of the things that's so incredible is, like, it is the only motorsport where you can not only start with a car that's as old as this thing was, but then take 8 years to finish it and still have a competitive piece, because you're basically trying to do something that so few people on the planet are even trying to do in the first place. If you try to go, well, you legally couldn't do it, but if you tried to go run stock car racing and rolled your 1986 Cup car out of the trailer, they're not going to let it on the racetrack, right? Yeah. So that's a part of it. But the other part of it is the idea of the patience it takes to be a successful land speed racer is beyond anybody's conception. Because when it rains, that's it for the year. We're done.
You're done. And that's the point I started to make a while ago. But so now you haven't run for a year, and maybe 2 years, and now you get back in the car. You don't go out and make 5 laps and come in and change stagger or change this or change the tune. You get in the car after all that time and you go 400.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a pretty serious deal. I mean, there's more people that have walked on the moon than have gone over 400 miles an hour in a piston car.
That's an interesting statistic. I never thought about that.
Insane.
That's amazing. Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, there's no place to test.
No.
And the window of opportunity at Bonneville is so narrow. You got to get it all done. You know.
Are there things you can do, like I've seen the warm-up procedure where they're running the engines and engaging the transmissions, and the wheels are spinning up to like, inflate the wheels up, but that's basically all you've got, right? And you can't simulate a run. You can't.
We put oil heaters in there to bring the temperature up quick, so it doesn't have to sit too much. Because we started off running 50% nitro, which it didn't really care, and then we went to 60. I'm going, we're getting pretty brave, and then we went to 70, and then above 70 it started to make a difference. I'm going, oh wow, this is
got some beans
now. Cool, yeah. And then we got into the 80s, and I'm going, holy smokes, our down run on our record run was 446 miles an hour on 83%.
Wow.
83%. And I kept asking Kat, and I said, give me some more nitro. Give me some. Nah, you can't handle more nitro. You can't. And I'm going, yeah. So finally he says, after our 446, he goes, okay, I'm going to give you 3% more. I'm going, 3%, big deal. Big deal, right? It is a big deal, man. I mean, we fired that thing up the next morning, and I'm going, what's different? Something was different, but I couldn't really tell. And I left the truck. When they pushed me off and I left the truck, I go, oh my God, I got a tiger by the tail here. And that it was a completely different car. And those guys figured between the two motors, you're maybe 600 horsepower. Yes.
With that 3%
With that 3%.
Yeah. So you're talking, and we should explain to people, in total, this is a 5,000 horsepower car.
Yeah.
2,500 apiece with the two injected nitro burning Hemis.
Yep.
And that's another thing to think about. If you're a drag racing fan and you're watching this and you watch an injected fuel dragster go 280 miles an hour for a split second, it's cool. This is a car that is going to run and use 50 gallons of fuel probably over the course of a run. So it's going to be at this sustained speed for minutes.
Yep.
And it's going to survive with your fingers crossed.
Yeah. With no water.
With no water, dry blocks.
Yeah, dry blocks. And we run there at the end. You can put your hands on the cylinder heads like that.
And the fuel volume is what keeps the
fuel volume. Just we stole that from the big show guys.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't run, how they do. We can't run it that long because we run 68 seconds.
Yeah,
is what it takes to make a run.
Minute and 8 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
At full bore.
At full bore. Yeah. So that's the other thing. Look, I want to build a new car really bad. I mean, that's my goal. I want to go 500 miles an hour. I'd like to be the first to do it if George doesn't beat us to it, which he might, this year, but I want to go 500. 500 synonymous, and the Indy 500, the Daytona 500, the Bonneville 500, whatever it is. But then we'll run probably 2 blown motors.
Yeah,
that
makes
blown
sense.
Motors, with traction control. Now, so when we ran the 450 run, 459 out the door, I never got above 35% throttle in low gear because it wouldn't take it. And we don't have traction control. Yeah. We had, Danny control. And if the front tires were spinning, you could feel it, in the steering. The rear tires you felt in your butt, So, and then in second gear, 76% throttle, and then in high gear, 100% throttle.
And so let's talk on that for a second, because people can go to your YouTube page and watch the in-car for these runs.
Yep.
And as a guy sitting at my desk watching this stuff, especially that 450 run, you're at. I mean, it was terrifying for me to watch, because you basically have to put full lock into it once or twice, and you well know the implications of that in a streamliner. If that thing gets even a couple more degrees out of shape, you're basically a pencil rolling across a desk that's 12 miles long.
Yeah, and that's exactly right. And the Bonneville is so slippery, if people don't know, it's almost like driving on snow. Kind of give you a quick evaluation of it. And there's a big dip in the mountains on the left side out about 2 miles, 3 miles. Well, the wind will come through there.
Yeah.
And that's typically about the 3 mile mark. Well, we were going 430 miles an hour on the return record run, and there was a 12-mile-an-hour crosswind that came across there. So if you can imagine, we have almost 7% wheel slip anyway on the salt, and so it doesn't take much to do it. And that thing just went whoop, and I saw the mountains. I didn't see floating mountain. I saw the mountains.
Yeah.
So now I'm pointing to Reno.
Yeah.
And a second later, I was pointing to Salt Lake City, and it was kind of like, whenever that happens at Bonneville, you pull the parachute, because what it does is separate the center of pressure from the center of gravity more, and it gives the car stability when it's in yaw.
Yeah.
So when it's sideways, it brings it back.
Yeah.
And it was like, and I don't know, somebody smarter than me would have to figure this out, but I don't know how you can think fast enough to say, okay, I need to pull that parachute right now. But we've been working on this thing 10 years. There's no more money. We're not coming back. The deal's over.
Yeah.
This is the last run.
Yeah.
You're going to go for it and maybe not come back? Or are you going to pull the parachute and do the smart thing? Well, nobody said I was smart.
That was hereditary. That's hereditary. That was a hereditary decision you made. It was pre-programmed, man. Yeah.
Did you even have enough time to process, like, being scared, or is it just you just react and then you keep going?
That's what I mean. Somebody smarter than me would have to figure that out, because you're talking about whatever a millisecond would be, that you gotta process all that and say, what do you do? Well, I wasn't coming back. We were done.
Yeah.
And thing went 459 out the door, and it was like, once again, the hair is standing up.
Absolutely.
When you watch the video, you get the two switches to shift the car, and you shift the thing into high gear, and it pulls the RPM down to, like, I don't know, 58, 5900, and it is like the meanest sounding son of a bitch in the world. It is like when you hit high gear in that thing, and it just sets those engines down, because these injected engines, that's where they like to live. They're not huge RPM. They're just all torque. And when they get into that happy spot, it's like, it makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up.
Yep. You're exactly right about the RPM. But it was 1,200 RPM from second to third. And it got down 5,700, and it just pulled.
It sounds hellacious.
Yeah.
Nice. And that's where they like to. Where's they make peak power or peak torque?
We've never run them on the dyno.
Yeah.
So
but just like
but that's where they're happy, and you look at the data and stuff, and that's where they get happy, and it just grunts. It's, you pissed it off.
What's the max RPM you run then when you shift?
I shift at a low at 7,200.
Okay.
And shift out a second at 7,200. And that was only because with a 3-speed, I would have had, like, George has got I think 8-speed in that thing, but we didn't have the length. Each time you
RPM
put another,
Right.
you got, a transmission that's long. Well, our box that we had to work in wouldn't accept that. We put 32 inches on the back of the car, made it 32 inches longer than my dad had it. But that was just to give it to separate the center pressure to center of gravity a little bit. But yeah, boy, I tell you, so 2 blown motors on a new car, and boy, there's just trying to find the right combination. Sponsorship, basically the hardest thing in motorsports.
And really, that's part of the other part of the Challenger 2 story that I don't necessarily know that people appreciate. In that, I mean, if everything went correct, you burned a couple $1,000s worth of fuel alone. When you would make a run, it'd be a couple grand. This nitro's about $40 a gallon. That's kind of been a constant for a long time. So let's call it $2,000 just to make a run in this thing. And you were not ever swimming in cash, ever.
No,
ever.
No.
So. No. I mean, this is like Wallenda family tightrope walking, because if you had gone out there and yard sailed both engines early on in this process, it's over.
It was over. Yeah. Yeah, there weren't any spares. We had a spare spare pistons and spare rods, but yeah, we didn't have any spares or anything. My wife was an angel to put up with that. Because that's why we sold the car. We sold the car to pay. I don't owe anybody any money, and I still have the record. So yeah,
that's that. Yeah. Listen, there's not a lot of guys can actually make either of those claims, so that's actually really good. But in that sense, like, you know, we talk about that moment of fear when the thing's trying to send you across the salt, but there had to have been sustained sleepless nights when you understand like what the gravity of what's going on around you, and you're on a ride that you can't necessarily hit the brakes on right now. You got to see this thing through.
Yeah, you're on it, you know, and it's like if you gave up, well, you don't give up.
Yeah.
My old man would have come down and beat the hell out of me. Right? I mean, a long arm, like a boom, you know. So, but yeah, you don't give up, and it's just like being tenacious, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. It was that, man. It's still to me, it's the coolest thing besides maybe the birth of my son. Coolest thing that's ever happened to me, and we worked hard for it, and still about once every 3 weeks. A lot of the crew get together and we drink beer and lie to each other and talk about how we're faster and all that. So, you know, so that's you know that's cool. It's just trying to get a new project would be a whole lot of money.
Yeah,
I mean a
massive
ton of money.
investment.
Yeah, and I don't have a shop or anything now. So I mean I still have my shop they're sitting in trailers.
Yeah.
In Colorado, you know, lathes and mills and all that stuff. But rent and everything's so expensive down here until you have a project. You know, so if I get a project, then we'll call up a truck driver and bring down and start. I mean, Gibson and I talk. Well, we talked yesterday. We talked about active suspension yesterday. You know, it's just like he sends me notes and I send him notes, and we just all the time back and forth. So he's anxious. I mean, Don Long's a big fan of our deal. I mean, I went to a meeting the other night for a Dry Lakes meeting. And Don Long was there, and he had a Challenger 2 sweatshirt on. And I went,
that's cool.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's Don Long.
Yeah, and again, for those of you who don't know who Don Long is, this is one of the foundational chassis builders in the sport of drag racing who was also involved in even, we talk about Don Long and his slingshot dragsters, but this guy was able to build anything for anybody.
Yep. If it was something in the garden, too. You know, I mean, those creative minds. And that's, you know, I don't know. I just, I want to do this. I want to go 500 tomorrow morning.
And look, you haven't stopped. I mean, in 21, you set the 358-mile-an-hour record in the Ferguson Streamliner. So it's not like you've been sitting around plucking daisies here.
No, and we're going with Ferguson again this year, and we're going. So we're going for a C record. So we got the record at 385 and the B record. So we have the AA record, AA fuel in Challenger 2, and then we got the B record in Ferguson's car. Now we're going for a C record. So he just took. Bonneville people are so cool because it had to be 72 cubic inches smaller to be a C motor. So he just took number 8 rod and piston out of it, and Bob weighted the crank, and we're running a V7 on 94% because he's a big nitro guy.
Oh, wow, 94%.
94%. That's where we'll start.
Do Streamliners drive differently? Like how much different does it's like, I don't even know if this is possible, but how much difference does the Ferguson car drive from Challenger 2?
That's a great question. And the difference is 4-wheel drive, 2-wheel drive. And 4-wheel drive is difficult to, you got a lot more stuff going on and everything. And the Ferguson cars are a rear-wheel drive, and it drove so nice. It was I don't want to say easier. It was different, but a lot less things going on. And it's a good car. Those guys are good guys. You know, they're hot rodders. You know, I mean, Ferguson, when you say Ferguson, so we're not running a BAE block or anything. We're running a Ferguson block. He cast his own blocks. His own blocks, aluminum blocks.
As one does.
Yeah,
sure.
It's the old Maladon thing, you know. And he does the Ardens, right? And he cast his own Arden blocks and his own Arden heads. Cool. And so these are more hot rod people that are. It's just good to be around those people. It's like there's no real negativity and that's another thing that's pretty nice about Bonneville is you don't have the politics, you know, like you do in all the other shows and everything. And it's that part's good.
Unless you're running a roadster in certain categories.
That's true. There's a lot of
But at the Streamliner level, you're right. Everybody's kind of on their own deal.
Yeah. And you look at the Streamliner deal because you were talking about design before, and you know the 4-engine car that my dad built in '60. But you look at Poteet's car that's only this wide in the front and 2-wheel drive, and it's gone 460 something miles an hour. And then you look at Vesco's car with the turbines in it, 4-wheel drive, and it's gone out the door at 501. And then narrow cars, wide cars, this cars, that car.
Carbonite, for those of you who've never seen the Carbonite Streamliner, which was a totally wild take on how to do a Streamliner, which had a ProCharge big block Chevy in it for an engine. And, you know, that's, again, the beauty of Bonneville. You've been out there a bunch of times. I've been out there, and it's like just that everybody has their idea and they're able to execute on it. That's the part of it that's pretty magical.
Yeah, pretty magic, absolutely. And from everywhere. I mean, if you line the cars side by side, you say, well, they can't be in the same. They're not in the same class, but basically the same group. You know, the group is what car do you want to build? I want to build the baddest car at Bonneville. You know, fattest, fastest, you know, thing.
And it's the hat hierarchy of Bonneville. For those of you that don't know, when you qualify and set a record over 200 miles an hour in a class, you earn a red hat. That's your Bonneville 200-mile-an-hour club, which is the largest of the clubs, but still very exclusive. I think it took this guy like 5 years to get into it. So that's how difficult it is. The next club up is the 300-mile-an-hour club. You get a blue hat. And both you and your father are in that one, which I think is pretty special.
Yep.
And then, of course, you have a black hat. There are 16 people on planet Earth that have a black Bonneville hat. And they include names like Art Arfons, Craig Breedlove, the best of the best.
Yep. Altigue. Yeah. I mean, and then more than half of those are jet cars.
Yes.
So then you get down to the piston car, and then you get into the real, to me, that's the heart and soul. You know, jet cars are bitching, and they go fast. And I mean, they were looking for a driver for that new thrust thing or whatever it was, you know. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go that fast. The 500 is pretty magic. We'll stay there. But you know, it's all. What are you going to do with a new car? Can you make a new car go 500? Now, I'm saying, I want to go 500, and just like we're talking, but nobody's ever done it, so it's not like it's easy.
That's what I was going to ask you. Is if you got this idea, but like, how do you start? Do you have an idea? Is it just a clean sheet of paper?
Clean sheet of paper, blank sheet of paper, and start on it. And there's some things we've learned, of course, that we want to do, and the 4-wheel drive being a big one, and tires are a big deal at Bonneville. You know, basically, you were talking about a couple $1,000s in fuel a run, and you go through 4 tires on a 4-wheel drive car. 4 tires, that's $4,000. It's about $10,000 a run to make for my car.
Oh, to make a clean one.
To make a clean one, yeah. That's if you don't hurt anything.
Yeah.
That's not having an extra 12-pack of rods and pistons or a 16-pack of rods and pistons in the car and stuff. So it's all there. It's I'm only 74, so I got some laps left.
Yeah, no, you got plenty. I mean, hey, you're more fit than the two of us combined. I'm not taking a shot. I mean, especially me. But it's accurate.
No, I think it's amazing.
I work out every day, just because the last 3 years, all I've been doing is surgeries. I mean, there's no OEM parts left on this body. There's not.
The bionic man.
I got more titanium in me than my car did. You know? I get one more hip right after Bonneville. I got one 6 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
6 weeks ago?
Yeah, 6 weeks ago. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, they're pretty amazing. You know, those guys come in and you don't know the doctor. He comes in, he cuts your leg off, bores a hole down the center of it, pounds a peg in it, gives you a kiss goodbye, and you're gone in 2 hours. You know, it's kind of like, and I don't know this guy.
He's got a tea time to make.
Yeah, exactly.
Tea time to make that afternoon. What is the root reason that car wasn't sold after 1969? What is the reason that it stayed around? Because that's also part of the story that's almost kind of mystical, that your dad didn't look at it at one point and go, just get this thing out of here.
So he did sell it, right? And he sold it, and Maladon bought it.
Wow, okay.
And then, what's the guy's name that worked for Champion? Oh, I can't think of it right now. But anyway, they took it, and they took the cameras out. My dad took the cameras out and sold them. And in fact, one of them's still around. Brent Hike has one of those cameras, the blown one. And anyway, so it got sold, and this guy rebuilt it. I can't think of his name. That's embarrassing. But anyway, and they fitted it with their motors and everything. But then the story I know is that he didn't pay for it. So he never paid my dad.
Oh.
So after a number of years, my dad went back and got it, and it just sat in a trailer. So so then maybe after he sold it, maybe what he was thinking is he wanted to run it again, like eventually he came to me with, and he didn't get that record.
Yeah.
And most everything that my dad went after, he got.
Yeah.
And I think that was one reason that my dad was not afraid to fail.
Yeah. Oh, he bet big on himself and succeeded, and he bet big on himself at times and failed.
Yeah, absolutely. But he wasn't afraid to try. And I mean, Indianapolis, when my dad goes back there with a rear engine car and a stock block in 62.
Yeah.
And they got some rookie that nobody knows about named Dan Gurney drives it. I mean, those are big deals, big deals. I mean, the next year he went back with those 12-inch wheels and tires.
And didn't they outlaw those?
Oh, yeah.
The first time they saw him, right? And honestly, I mean, history being what it is, at the time, the officials, USAC officials kind of denied it, but they had no use for your father.
Oh, no.
They really didn't. I mean, you can't really deny when you look at what he was showing up with, how it was constructed and engineered, and what they put him through. They were stacked the deck against the guy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I mean, like the wheels and tires that they took away, the 12-inch stuff, that was accepted. I mean, I have the letters, and then they just took the thing, went back there, and it worked pretty good. It was a titanium car, had a magnesium block Chevrolet in it, and it went back there. It was under 1,000 pounds.
Wow.
With a tire this wide, and low to the ground, and it looked like it was going to go. And I mean, Foyt and those other guys, I mean, they were just like, this isn't going to happen. They were running roadsters with 33-inch tires, and going fast. But yeah, it was. Mickey Thompson was a California hot rodder. He didn't come up through dirt track, and he didn't come up through that stuff. And that's it. Politics.
Was that okay? Politics is like you didn't pay your dues, so we're not going to let you.
And he was radical. I mean, 1962, he won the Mechanical Achievement Award. The DA Mechanical Achievement Award, and that's sort of the best design and the best thoughtful deal, and that's voted by the crew chiefs.
That's a peer awarded.
That's a peer
not
awarded
the
deal.
drivers.
Yeah, I still have that ring. It's like sits in the safe. But
what year did he show up with the small block Chevy with like the dual overhead cams and the crazy cylinder heads on it?
So that would have been 66.
Okay.
Yeah, 66 with a 3-valve motor and then a 4-valve motor. Yeah. I have one of each of those left. Everything's gone now, except for that car we just talked about, that titanium car. That's the only car. I sold everything during C2 because you'd run out of money and you couldn't pay your guys, and what are you going to do? Well, I can get $50,000 for that car, and it's like still breaks my heart to do it. But my dad would have done the exact same thing.
Well, and look what the result is, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't like you were selling this for some other other problem you were having.
Yeah.
I mean, you were solving a very important problem, and the money clearly went. Some people would deny it, but it went to good use. I mean, the three of us, I think, would.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, that's it. It went to good use.
So this new project that you'd like to embark on, it cannot have an 8-year timeline.
No. The budget calls for 3 years. To build, construct, and run. So, and that's, hopefully Bonneville will be nice to us, She's got way more horsepower than any of us, so she don't want you to run.
It's not going to happen.
Sprinkles a little in the wound. And so, 3 years and, 3 years. Because I don't have 5 or 6 or 8 years. I mean, I say I got laps left in me, but I don't have, somewhere, even Forrest is thinking about it, huh?
Right. I mean, I think even a guy like John Forrest, who, at this point, as we make the show in 2024, he's finally actually said the word retirement, right? He's been reticent to even say it.
Yeah. He probably didn't mean it, but he said it.
Right. It slipped out. Like every other word out of the guy's mouth, it slipped out.
Oh, shucks. So, I don't know. I'm ready. I mean, I'm ready. If I had the money, I'd call the trucks up and get that equipment, show it down, and we'd start right now. Gibson's so ready, So.
And that's the allure of Bonneville, which I hope 100 years from now people are still talking about in this way. And the blessing and the curse of the place is that nobody has ever won $1 by doing anything successful at Bonneville. And that's to me, it's the only reason it stands as this uncorrupted form of motorsports. And I used to tell people, like when I was going out there, I went 7 or 8 years in a row, I said, it's like if, you're a Hindu or whatever and you're in India, you go jump in the Ganges River and you kind of cleanse yourself. Well, that was a week at Bonneville for me. It was you go out there and it is the most awesome reminder of everything good about hot rodding and everything good about racing.
Yep. All the way back, from when Peterson went up there first time, and
49 the first speed week. Yeah.
And Wally, and Wally was up there for that. It's it's hot rodding. I mean, it is, because no matter what you bring there, it's good. In my opinion, it's good. If you've been already up there 10 years and you're going up there to go a mile an hour faster, that's a big deal. Or if you're somebody, then you come up with this exotic idea of this kind of day and that kind of thing and all that stuff, and you're looking at it and you're thinking to yourself, that is so bad, that is so ugly, that could never work. I never think that at Bonneville because it was that guy or that group of guys or girls or whatever it is, and it's their idea.
Yeah.
And they're trying something.
Yeah.
How do you know? You got to try it to see if it's going to work, you know.
I mean, you've been around drag racing long enough to know that when somebody shows up with something new, what is the first thing everybody at the drag show says?
Tear it apart. Right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's part of it. I think, like you were saying, you can't test ahead of time. So the proof is at the salt flats, and so like, why not take some chances and see how it goes?
Yeah. And then you got to wait a year if it didn't work, or if it rains, you got to wait 2 years. We didn't run Bonneville for almost 500 days because of rain.
Right.
No, we haven't run the last 2 years. We didn't go. Because they had a 3-mile track last year. There's no sense in taking Ferguson's car.
Yeah.
And you know why? But 2017, the track was so rough. I mean, we go through a set of tires in the first mile, and I mean
That's incredible.
It was just, I don't know what it was, but it's just how Mother Nature, how much water and how much wind and all of those things, you know. But and it's a shame that the BLM won't recognize. They won't recognize what's going on up there, and I mean, sometimes they pump, sometimes they don't. But when my dad ran up there in the '60s, there was 18 to 24 inches of salt. You know, now you're talking 2 inches, half an inch in some places, mud showing through. I mean, it's one of the natural resources of the world that's going away, but BLM won't do anything about it. And
it's rough.
You know, so.
So I guess the last thing we'll kind of close up on is this, this idea of the 500 mile an hour, piston-driven car, and we have seen, George Protein, Speed Demon, they have their approach, which is incredible. I mean, you have to respect it, and I'm sure you guys have been at loggerheads more than once over the course of time, but he shows up with an incredible well-funded budget, and they can sling 5-6 engines through this thing over the course of a week. Kenny Duttweiler provides the power. It's an amazing operation.
Yeah, it's an operation.
But even they haven't cracked the code yet.
Nope.
That's right.
Nope. And yeah, even the difference between like 375 and 400. I mean, that 400 miles an hour things change. Now, I would like to find out what's going to change at 500. But and George is well funded, but those guys are badass.
They are.
I mean, they're the kings.
Yeah.
They are the kings. We had them beat for a year and a half, and that was half of a year was because of rain.
Hey, listen, take it any way you can
we'll
get
take it for sure. So, and how if we were off the throttle 2.5 seconds on when that thing jumped sideways on the 450 run, how fast? I know how much faster it would have gone because I looked at all the numbers, but it doesn't matter because it didn't do it. Right. So it's just BS without that. But yeah, so let's go.
Yeah, I'd love to see that happen. I mean, I wish I had $500,000 just to drop on the table right now
to get it started.
To get it started, exactly. Yeah, budgets are big now. I mean, everything. Shop rents, everything is But but I'm not getting in it and doing it like I did before.
Yeah.
Where I got to lay my 2 guys off for 3 weeks because I can't pay them.
Yeah,
we'll work for free and then pay us later. Well, what if I don't get something later? I'm not going to owe you guys money when this thing's over. So I got to do it. I got to do it right. And we got the people and got the plan.
Last question before we let you go. What is the single most important thing that passed from your dad to you?
Wow. Tenacity, I guess. Stubbornness. Stupidity. I mean, you can throw it all in there and mix it up and see
Being
what comes
too dumb
out.
to quit.
Yeah. I mean, he was not a quitter, and he definitely, embedded that in me. And otherwise, we wouldn't have made the whole deal with C2. But I'd like to say tenacity, but I'm not really sure what all those big words mean.
That's a good one. Thank you so much, man. It's an incredible story. Your whole life is an incredible story, but what you and your crew managed to do with Challenger 2 is just phenomenal. I think a lot of people are gonna learn something out of this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is a great ride. I can't wait to see what it takes to go 500 miles an hour.
Yeah, I hope to. That's all I can say. Yeah. And thank you both. And I mean, you guys are hitters as far as I'm concerned. So that's all. That's all.
That's a
important
perfect
to me.
note to close on, John.
Yeah.
I like the sound of that.
We literally have to stop that now. He's Danny Thompson. We hope you enjoyed his story and the recounting of the Challenger 2 story and what they were able to achieve on the Bonneville Salt Flats. Still holds the AA Fuel Streamliner record, and there's nobody coming in sight, so he's going to hang on to it for a while. I'm Brian Lawrence. He's John McGann. This is the Hot Rod Pod, where it all began. We'll be back soon with more legends and a guy that's probably slower than him. Well, John, we brought up their name a few times over the course of this episode, but OpenRoad Auto Insurance stepped up to support the show, and I think it's time we get people a little more education on what they do.
Yeah, collector car insurance is a big deal, and if you have something that you care about that you don't want sent to the local collision shop.
Yes, nobody wants that.
Like, I don't own anything that I'd ever want just a regular collision shop working on right now. So insurance is important, and it's nice to have a sponsorship here with OpenRoad Insurance. I'd like to thank them personally for sponsoring this episode. Yeah. But we talk a little bit about what it's like to get car insurance for a collector vehicle and what that means to you if you ever need it.
Yeah, so let's meet the folks from OpenRoad Auto Insurance. As the presenting sponsor of this episode of the Hot Rod Pod, where it all began, OpenRoad Auto Insurance is a new name to the world of collector car, specialty vehicle, and enthusiast vehicle insurance. So to learn more, we have Brian Ballatore on. He's the Chief Revenue Officer of OpenRoad Auto Insurance. And Brian, it's a pleasure to meet you, and it's going to be a good kind of experience here. We got Danny Thompson on the show. We're talking cars.
It's fantastic. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Brian. I was wondering, to start this thing off, if you could fill your garage up with anything. You're a car enthusiast? I'm assuming you are,
yes.
Running a specialty car insurance company. What would you buy?
I am. Wow. Without taking the entire show, of course.
Hey.
I'll give you three.
Nice.
So I got to start with what I think is sort of the most raw of the three, and that's 66 GT350.
There you go.
Oh, that's
all right.
cool.
Yeah.
Good choice. Good choice.
You got a red and black striped elite, and you got to have side exhaust.
Nice. All right, that's a winner. What's number two?
A little obnoxious. So we're going to go totally different end of the spectrum. So this is my versatility choice. Aston Martin DB4 GT.
Okay.
Like
Taking a trip to jolly old England. I like it. I like it.
That's
cool.
right. Well,
Good choice.
here's the cool thing about this car, though. You can wake up in the morning, you drive 100 miles to the track. You can race it all day. You can drive it home, take a shower, go to dinner. It's awesome.
It has value.
Anyway.
That has value.
And roll up like James
you're a
Bond,
driver.
too.
Yeah, it's a driver's car.
That's nice.
All right. And then third and final is like the AC Cobra of France. Type 35, Bugatti Type 35B.
Oh man. Okay. So now we're going all the way into the deep end of the financial world here on this thing too.
You guys said Dream Garage, right?
I might have to Google that. I'm not even sure what you're talking about.
It's a Grand Prix car from the 20s.
It's one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen, and it's a giant pile of money shaped like an automotive sculpture. And it is fantastic. Right. Yes.
It's fantastic. And what's so cool, though, is like so raw. It's just dangerous, and it's fat, and it's gorgeous, and it's just,
So
I can't, it's perfect.
So look, I think these are three great selections because they kind of span the gamut. You have the rawness of the GT350, of course, a great modern technology, and then the beauty and spirit of the Type 35. And so this does kind of raise another question. When we talk about enthusiast auto insurance, we talk about specialty vehicle auto insurance, which is the business you're in. It does span that same gamut. And so how do you provide a service to people that maybe they don't get at a normal insurance company for the car that they love so much?
Yeah, it's about understanding the weight of their vehicles, right? So it's the cars themselves, and then how we cover those cars, and that's where we've built a product that makes the most sense for them, right? These cars are older, they break down more often, they require repairs that are really specific, and as owners, and you guys know this better than anyone, the way they're repaired is very particular to that owner.
Yeah.
Right? And so we build coverages that take the vehicle and their owners into account. And for example, we go agreed value coverage. We know these cars are worth a certain amount. We agree on it. If there's a total loss, we cover it. There's no debating over that price. We cover spare parts and tools because we all have those. We'll let you choose from a repair shop. We're not just going to say this is a shop you need to go to. We'll say you choose the shop you want to go to. We'll use OEM parts, not just any windshield, but the windshield you want. Nice feature I love is we towing built into every policy.
There you go.
Because you're going to break down.
Yeah, it's a reality. It is a reality. We've all lived that life. This does happen.
On a few tow trucks in my life, yes.
Yes. That's if you're lucky enough to have the tow truck and not your buddy in a rope.
That's right, too. I've seen that.
And I think one of the other things that people get hung up on when we talk about this style of insurance, what qualifies to be insured by OpenRoad? I mean, do I have to have a GT350? Do I have to have a GTO or an Aston Martin? Like, what falls into this segment? What is your customer?
Yeah, so coincidentally, those two, I won't insure. And here's why. We built our product for that true core enthusiast. So we're talking Chevelles and Camaros and Mustangs and Ford Model A's. That's really what we want to focus on. The really high end of the market, we'll leave to other folks. Mm-hmm. And so for us, it's purely about how the vehicle's used and if it has any enthusiast quality. Right? So if you take this thing out Saturday mornings and you clean it when you get home and you keep it in the garage in a cover and it's your true prized possession, that's good enough for us. We will span the full gamut, 1896 Ford quadricycle to a brand new Corvette.
I like that.
We'll do it all. It's just about how our clients use them. And as long as they have a daily driver, we have built a product for them. And the daily driver is really important because one of the things we focus most on is price.
Yeah.
And by knowing that you don't drive this vehicle daily, you treat it very specially, allows me to pass lower costs on to our client, which is really obviously important.
It is important. I got actually funny story, denied classic car insurance coverage for my C10 when I first bought it because it was it was too ugly.
There you go. Is there a beauty code?
Yes, no. C10 is one of them, it's like right in our sweet spot. It's actually we use that vehicle all the time as like a test vehicle because it's so core to so many people.
That's funny. This would have been about 8 years ago when I first got it, and it did look like it had been previously used to collect recycling cans. So,
that's funny though, because part of what I tell people is like, I'm not here to tell anyone what is or isn't a collector or an enthusiast vehicle.
Yeah.
Like we love all cars, and we're here to support that passion by providing our clients with that peace of mind. Mm-hmm. So as long as you treat it like an enthusiast vehicle, you love it, you clean it, you have it as a screensaver on your phone, that's most likely good enough for us.
Yeah.
In terms of OpenRoad being a new name into this marketplace, what do you see as the biggest strengths that you bring in?
I'd say new approach. We've learned from past experiences. So we've got a great team. We've all worked in insurance and collector auto insurance before. So we've seen a lot. And being a new company allows us to start without making some of those past mistakes. And we are laser focused on delivering a great product at the best price we can. We all need a break, particularly right now. I cannot help you with groceries, but at least I can help you with the relief on insurance costs. And then the other part would be technology. So starting today and not having lazy systems or anything to work from, I get to build nice, simple, straightforward technology from scratch, which means that I can provide better, faster service, which is good for you. It's less phone calls, less emails, less photos, less printing. It's just a simple, straightforward experience. I don't think very many people want to talk to their insurance carrier. It's not something I've heard, but we do have a servicing team if you need one, but our goal is to make it easy enough for you that you don't need to call us.
That's cool. Like you said about the Bugatti, my pile of money is shaped like a C10. And the one thing I was thinking too is I've done most of the work to the car. So like say someone plows into me in an intersection or something. Do I have to choose a shop, or can I get like the money to get replacement parts, sheet metal and stuff like that, and then just put it back together myself?
Yeah, no, you don't have to choose a shop.
Okay.
If you want to do the work yourself, that's right. We'll pay you like you're a shop. You buy your parts, you put it back together again.
Wow. That's
cool. Because it's so core to the hobby.
Yeah.
This is back to us knowing the behavior of our clients. We want them to experience the hobby how they want to experience the hobby. We don't want to be a hindrance to that.
Well, Brian, thank you so much, and thank you for supporting the Hot Rod Pod and helping us get the word out and talk to guys like Danny Thompson. And thank you so much for supporting the core of this hobby, which is helping hot rodders, enthusiasts of all makes, models, sizes, and years to have insurance on their vehicles to make sure they stay on the road, because that helps us sustain this entire thing.
It's been fantastic. Yes.
I got one last question.
Go for it.
Do you guys insure Danny Thompson's 5,000 horsepower Streamliner for Bonneville?
Listen, it's only gone like 440 miles an hour. So I mean, and it only goes 5 miles at a time. I mean, it's weekend usage.
You know what? Well, maybe we can make an exception. We do have a hard rule. Nothing over 400 miles per hour. So just a bit outside.
All right, Brian, we'll work on the Thompson clause for OpenRoad Auto Insurance. But again, thank you for coming on board. Thank you for entering this industry and providing what's going to be a valuable service for many thousands of your customers.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate it. Thank you.